This week, U.S. President Obama announced the first drawdown of U.S. troops from Afghanistan. Some question if the U.S. is pulling out too soon. Among them are religious rights groups who say Afghanistan still has a long way to go in guaranteeing religious freedom. It's especially harsh for Christians. Afghans who leave Islam to follow Christ have been jailed and threatened with the death sentence. It could get worse if the Taliban comes to power. In 2010, the Taliban murdered 10 members of a Christian aid team providing medical treatment to villagers in northern Afghanistan. And in 2007, the group kidnapped 23 Christian Korean missionaries, murdering 2 of them before releasing the rest. Joining us now is Knox Thames, Policy Director for the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. The group advises the U.S. State Department on religious freedom issues worldwide, and he's just back from Afghanistan. Knox, it seems like there's hardly any religious freedom in Afghanistan today. Will it just get worse when the U.S. pulls out?
Well, that's a great question, and that's something that we're very concerned about. And it's critical that the U.S. government, as it's looking towards 2014, works to establish safeguards that the Afghan government will respect for the religious freedoms of all Afghanis, be they Christians, Hindus, Sunni or Shia Muslims. If the Taliban were to ever come back to power, it would have devastating consequences for really all Afghanis of any faith, but especially for minority religious communities.
Knox, the Afghan Constitution, believe it or not, guarantees religious freedom. So, why aren't we seeing that put into practice?
Well, the Afghan Constitution, the way it was drafted, has a conflict inside the very articles that make up the text. While it does have language that commits the Afghan government to respect the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it also has provisions that say nothing can go against Sharia law. And the problem facing Afghanistan now is, what is Sharia law? Is it the version that the Taliban forced onto the populace, or is it a more moderate, progressive version that we see in other countries around the world?
Well, last time I checked, Sharia law and freedom of religion don't mix at all.
Well, we've certainly seen examples where very regressive interpretations have led to severe religious freedom abuses for Christians and other minorities, but also even for Muslims, that it prevents Muslims to debate their own faith and have an open discussion about how to interpret the tenets of their faith.
What should the U.S. government be doing to encourage religious freedom in Afghanistan?
Well, it needs to put this on top of the agenda as we're looking to transition authority and responsibility to the Afghanis. We need to make sure that they understand the importance of religious freedom, the importance of creating space in their society for peaceful religious dialogue, that they understand the importance of tolerance, that just because you're of a different faith, a different ethnicity, that doesn't mean you're of less value, and that you have just as many rights as any other Afghan citizen. So we need to be putting this on top of the agenda and raising it at the highest levels in Kabul.
And Knox, what's the big picture here? Why is religious freedom so crucial to democracy?
Well, without it, religious freedom is a unique human right in that it stands atop other human rights. So if you have religious freedom, you also have freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. And we've seen where there isn't religious freedom, those rights are also not respected, and women's rights are also abused. So if you want to have a flourishing democracy that's growing forward, that's moving the country forward, you've got to have fundamental rights like religious freedom fully respected for all.
Okay, but what's the reality? What's really going to happen if the Taliban comes back to power?
Oh, it'd be horrible. It would be devastating for the Afghan citizens, and also for our foreign policy in the region. As we know, the Taliban allowed terrorist attacks to be launched from their soil, and if they were to come back into power, we would have to assume that they would rebuild those liaisons and again try to establish those goals. So we must do everything we can to ensure that day doesn't come, and putting human rights and religious freedom at the top of the agenda, making sure that the Constitution, the Afghan Constitution, is interpreted in such a way that religious freedoms are protected and respected, will go a long way to help create the safeguards that will prevent that day from ever coming again.
And they certainly need our prayers for that. Well, Knox Thames, we thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.